Do you need a property manager? Hey folks, my name is Chris at Hauseit, based here in Miami, Florida. Today we're going to talk about this interesting topic that a lot of first-time buyers ask after they've purchased their home and perhaps they have a rethink and they want to rent it out. So they're going to be a first-time landlord and they're wondering, hey, can my agent, can Hauseit help me with, screening tenants, collecting rent? And this actually falls into the function of a property manager, which is very different from what function your real estate agent performs, which is really brokerage services. So then the question is, as a single condo unit owner, or perhaps you only own one house, do you really need a professional property manager, or how hard is it for you to just do it yourself? Well, let's start with condos. The beautiful thing about condos is they are already managed for the most part because each condo building, let's say a typical one here in Miami or in New York, anywhere from the smaller buildings in New York might have you might have like a 4-unit condo building or a former co-op and a former townhouse, or you might have a building, a condo tower with several hundred units. But for the most part, condominiums have professional outside management. So these building managers or property management companies, they'll charge a fee of maybe $1,000, couple $1,000 per month usually, and they'll manage the property on behalf of the condo's board of directors. So they'll act as the condo's board of directors managing agent. So they will perform the services of being a property manager. So as an individual condo unit owner, you don't really have to worry about that, fortunately. So you're really responsible for the interior of your condo unit. So anything related to the public, the building amenities, pools, exterior, even the exterior of your unit perhaps, it's not really your responsibility, right? Like for example, you're in a condo unit, the walls outside your windows, for example, I mean, that's on the exterior of the building. That's the building's responsibility and it's not yours. So in that case, that does save a lot of responsibility and time on the individual condo unit landlord's side. Oftentimes these buildings, depending on the size, will have at least a part-time super. Sometimes they might have a live-in super in some parts of New York. In Miami, a lot of these condo buildings will have like the management office on site, and they'll have staff on site, so they'll have like multiple maintenance people. So there's lots of people running around. And the helpful thing about that is if you do need help with something, in the interior of your apartment, you can usually and most efficiently often just ask someone in the condo building staff to help you with it. So one of the maintenance guys you might be friendly with, you can even ask the management company, perhaps on site, to see if they recommend one of the supers or one of the building maintenance folks who might be good, willing to take on some extra work, and they can help you with handyman stuff like small repairs and stuff in your apartment. So that's certainly possible, and it makes it a lot easier versus having to quote unquote have your own super or handyman that you hire for your properties. I mean, there's no need to hire one just for an individual condo unit. So the short answer is yes, if you own an individual condo unit and you decide to rent it out, it's up to you, but there really is no need to hire an external property manager. I mean, unless you are so busy you can't be bothered, then yes, I mean, the first person to approach would probably be your real estate agent to see if they have interest in helping you be a property manager. A lot of real estate agents actually do this for like individual owners, and they're just property managed for them. So they'll help screen tenants, they'll collect rent, they'll coordinate maintenance and repair requests and such, and they'll typically take a split, a percentage of the monthly rent roll. So anywhere from a few percent to like 15-20% of rent roll. It varies, it's negotiable obviously, but that's the first person you could ask. I mean, I wouldn't advise trying to hire like a professional property manager, one that manages entire condo buildings, because that fee is probably going to be unreasonable for you. But But yeah, if you really can't be bothered, I mean, sure, you can typically find a real estate agent or even the agent who helped you buy your home and see if they'd be willing to take on some freelance work as your property manager. If you own a house, on the other hand, it does get a little bit more tricky because many of the shared resources we spoke about before won't be available. So say you just bought a single family house, there might or might not be any sort of formal HOA association for the neighborhood perhaps, but you really can't count as much on that HOA association to really have, lots of building staff or, maintenance staff running around that you can sort of just pick and choose from. And there might not be any sort of HOA association to begin with. So in which case you're really on your own. And, as a detached single family or multifamily house owner, you are responsible for the entirety of the structure, right? So interior and exterior. If the roof leaks, if there's, like crumbling brick on the front, or the patio is broken and needs to be fixed, I mean, it's your responsibility, and you will need to be able to somehow coordinate repairs, any contractors that come in, anything that needs to be fixed and such, besides the usual duties of, screening tenants, collecting rent, maintenance requests and such. So there is a bit more work involved. So that one, again, it's really up to you. I mean, you could go and perhaps hire your real estate agent or any other real estate agent who wants to take on some freelance work as a property manager. That's certainly something you can do if you don't want to be bothered or managed. Of course, it's also doable by yourself too. It just takes a little bit more elbow grease because, in addition to maintaining the interior of your unit, you're also responsible for the exterior. So there might be more work involved. Also, of course, depending on the type of lease you have with your tenant and who's responsible for what aspects of the property, but you might be more on the hook for coordinating with contractors and maintenance people for other parts of the house. The great thing, though, about being a small-time landlord, say this is the only property you have, it is helpful if the property is close by to where you live, because if need be, there's always a way for you to personally stop by and see how things are. I know sometimes landlords, especially if it's their first property rented out, they want to do the walkthroughs themselves and the final walkthroughs where the exit walkthrough themselves, just because they have more an incentive to care about damage and stuff, and they have more of an eye. They know exactly what's what and what has been damaged or chipped, and versus maybe their agent won't have as much of an incentive. So it really helps to have the property close by. If there's major repairs required and you coordinate personally a contractor, maybe it's nice for you to be there and see the work being done and such. So proximity is definitely helpful for a non-professional landlord. It's nice to be able to go see how things are yourself. So what if you have a easy tenant? Do you really need a property manager? So let's say, for example, you're renting out a condo unit. It's a pretty reasonably big building with in-house management, like a management office in the building. There's lots of staffing around. The unit is rented furnished. Everything's working. In this situation, do you really need to hire a property manager to handle it for you? Well, again, it depends on how much you want to be bothered, but there are easy ways to do this. So for example, screening for tenants, we have a separate video on this. Check out how to screen tenants as a first-time landlord, one of our new videos. It's quite easy these days, right? You can go on any credit rating agency's website directly and use one of their services, for example, TransUnion Smart Move. This way you don't even need to ask the tenant's social security number. You can basically send them an invitation by email, and then once they input their social security information and other information on TransUnion's website directly, then TransUnion will have permission and share that credit report and perhaps criminal and other reports with you directly, without having to share their full SSN. Check out our video to learn more common sense tips on such things as always checking for landlord references, checking for income and assets and such. But these are all things that aren't rocket science and that you can do yourself as even as a new landlord. A lot of it is common sense. And then when it comes to collecting rent, I mean, there's so many ways to collect it these days, but one great tip is to actually collect it through a method like apartments.com. And the reason we like that one is, well, first of all, the service is free. And what it does is it essentially invites the client to sign up for your property and to link their bank, and then you can set up like automated monthly payments via ACH. There's a bit of a delay, and that's the sort of the lag in it. So it takes a few days for the ACH to arrive, but you get notifications when it's been processed and it's being sent. And the beautiful thing about this is not only is it free and it's via ACH, doesn't cost anything, it's automatic and monthly. The client doesn't have to, neither party needs to reveal their bank account information or any other sensitive info. But what's actually really important about this method, going through an intermediary like this, is the tenant can't just pay you without your permission. And this is actually quite important because in some states like New York, there are lots of shenanigans with tenant laws and such, and you certainly don't want to be paid by the tenant when they are in default. Perhaps like maybe they pay you some partial amount and such without your permission, or you're trying to evict them and then they pay at the last minute or something. And if you can't control their ability to pay you, then it can really throw a wrench in sort of any proceedings like that if you're just really trying to clear out your property because you own the property. But in some states the laws are really skewed, so you really have to watch out for that. Essentially, it could be disadvantageous for you as the landlord in certain states that are very tenant friendly if the tenant can just pay you some amount and you can't stop them from sending you that payment. So even if it's a partial or incomplete payment or a very minor payment, there are ways that can throw a wrench in your ability to perhaps evict a non-paying or a nuisance tenant. So we've covered how to screen tenants as a landlord, how to set up automatic payments, work with your real estate agent or check us out. We have a Hauseit landlord listing service as well for a 1-month fee. So our team can advise you throughout the process as well and give you standard leases. For example, in New York, it'd be the standard Rebney lease. There are customizations, of course, and in Florida, there's a standard realtor lease contract as well. So we can certainly guide you through that. Really, your lawyer will guide you through that, but we can help you, for example, in Florida, fill in the blanks because it's a standard form. But certainly, stick to those standard forms or contracts, just because the tenants will be used to it as well, but also it'll give you a standard set of protections that folks are used to. For example, in the New York and Florida contracts, there are places where you can put in who's responsible for which, and also like a dollar limit of responsibility. So for like minor things under X dollar amount, perhaps it's the tenant's responsibility. So obviously like light bulbs or minor fixes and stuff is the tenant's responsibility usually. And the last tip we have is, if you want to do it yourself, is to make sure you have a good roster of different contractors like plumbers, electricians that well, you've worked with before, you're on good terms with, and who can give you a good rate ideally, and just have them handy. And also for your appliance people as well. I mean, this is often a bigger part of the puzzle where something could potentially go wrong, and depending on the lease, oftentimes it's the landlord's responsibility to fix. So make sure you have stuff in warranty. If not, perhaps you make sure you have their contact information handy. You can call the manufacturer to get out and fix things easily. And when you call these, if something does break with the appliance, you should always try some common fixes first, such as resetting the circuit boards. Sometimes it's as simple as the circuit breaker needing to be switched on and off, or a display panel to turn back on. But besides that, when you're speaking with these appliance companies, always ask them if your appliance is out of warranty. Always ask them like, how much does it cost for the repair person at their company to come in person. Oftentimes they charge a set fee just to come out, and then will they have the spare parts available on them? How much does it cost? And then you ask them as well, like, how much does a new model that comes with a warranty cost? Because sometimes it might make sense just to get a completely new one versus trying to find parts and fix it. So there you have it. These are some pretty sensible and common tips for how to property manage, and hopefully we answer your question on whether you actually need a property manager or whether you can do it yourself. Again, it really depends on your own appetite. Most people, a lot of people simply don't want to be bothered by tenants because it gives them like a heart attack and it's very stressful to be bothered for repairs and stuff out of pocket. For others, they have a thick skin and they don't really, worry about it at all. So it's really up to you. And just lastly, as a pro tip, in case that is one of your concerns about, being, how do you say, texted at 4 a.m. or called at 4 a.m. at night because of a toilet issue that the tenant wants you specifically to fix because they can't figure it out. Well, you can really get around these issues by like setting some boundaries as well. And perhaps what you can do is you can have like a ticketing system like Freshdesk, for example, where you perhaps even have your personal assistant check on your behalf so you're not the one checking it, and during business hours they can tell you if they see something in this Freshdesk ticketing system. And then of course you tell your tenants to only message this Freshdesk ticketing system. It doesn't have to be Freshdesk or Zendesk, any of these, and a lot of them offer free, freemium, free type plans. So you don't even have to pay anything for this, and you can just have your personal assistant or your overseas virtual assistant check this for you. So you're not getting these like checking your iPhone and you see this email from your tenant at 8 p.m. Obviously, that's like very distressing, might ruin your weekend. So you can do this to offset it. And if you go this route as well, like make sure you set very clear expectations with your tenant to only contact, for example, this ticketing system, Freshdesk, for all requests, and that you're not personally involved. So we hope you found this helpful. My name is Chris at Hauseit, based here in Miami, Florida. We can help you buy and sell in New York and Florida. We cover all 5 boroughs in New York City, Hudson Valley, and Long Island. And in Southeast Florida, we cover Miami-Dade County, Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie counties. We can help you save all 6% in commission with an agent-assisted FSBO listing. And if you're looking to buy, we can help you save 2% or more with a Hauseit buyer closing credit program, where our buyer's brokers give you 2/3 of the buyer's broker commission, subject to us keeping a minimum of 1% or $7,500, whichever is greater. My name is Chris at Hauseit, and we'll see you on the next one.